Jean, or Jean, in Beirut, Lebanon, writes, "Hey, Paul, I am confused." Hey, Sean, me too. Join the club. I'm confused by the bi-wiring principle. What does it add to the sound of my loudspeaker? Thank you. Well, not much. All of our speakers in the Aspen line have bi-wiring capability. You'll see on the back two sets that divide the crossover into highs and lows, okay? And that is for bi-wiring. In the last 20, 30 years have never bi-wired a speaker. It's something that we make available for people who want to do it. And I'll explain to you the way it all started was years and years ago, at the dawn of time, when amplifiers were really coming into their own. There was a transition period where many of the power amplifiers out there that people owned were small vacuum tube based power amplifiers. And they were great sounding amplifiers, but they didn't have any watts. They didn't have any bottom end. They were small vacuum tube. Maybe they put out 20 watts if they were lucky. Many of them were 5 watt, 10 watt, 15 watt, 20 watt devices. Now, as speakers grew and people got into bass, all of a sudden, these small amplifiers really couldn't power heavy woofers that demanded a lot of power. So we started making big amps. One of the first big amps was Phase Linear 400, a 400 watt amplifier that Bob Carver designed back in the day. And then a whole rash of big amplifiers came out. Generally, they sounded bad, hard, bright, nasty. They just did. That we didn't know a lot about making big, powerful amplifiers sound good. Today we can do it, but back then, not so much. So, what was the solution? Well, what a lot of people started doing was bi-wiring and tri-wiring. But let's just focus on bi-wiring. Bi-wiring allowed us to separate the low wattage treble pieces, the tweeter, from the high power hungry woofer for the bass. Okay? Now when you did that, you could take this Phase 400 or whatever kind of big ugly amplifier you had, an SAE. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy amps out there that didn't sound very good, still don't today. And you could power the woofer with that, and then your little weenie amplifier at 20 watts, your tube amplifier, sweet and delightful sounding, that would power the tweeter. And that's how bi-wiring started. Later, when amps started getting better, we started coming up with, well, let's just bi-wire as opposed to that's called bi-amping, which uses bi-wiring. So now we only have one good sounding amplifier, but now we're still going to bi-wire, and here we can use a sweet sounding cable for the top end that didn't do so well on the bottom end, and something better on the bottom end. But over time, cable manufacturers learned how to make cables that sounded good on both the top end and the bottom end. So now we have cables that work perfectly in a universal sense and amplifiers that do the same. There is no need anymore for either bi-wiring or bi-amping. It's a vestige of the past, and we still keep doing it because people want it. There you go.